We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Welcome back, Mavs fans. This is Kirk and Josh. You are joining us for Pod Mavericks After Dark. It is just before 9:30 on February 22nd. It's a Thursday night. We're joining you after a week off because Josh and I decided that we're not going to do shit for the All-Star break. Welcome back, Josh. What's going on?
Nothing much. Good to talk to you. Glad we're here. Glad we're here before 9:30 local time. So Mavericks get a 10-point win against the team directly ahead of them in the standings. We're talking before it's even 9:30. We just had a week off. I mean, how could things be better?
Let's fucking go. I'm having a great time.
Excited? Did you like that game?
Excited.
You weren't in Slack a lot, so usually I can get a sneak preview of how you're feeling about a game with your Slack post. But you were a little. You watched without Slack messages, so I'm kind of flying blind on how you feel.
Well, so for complete transparency, there's the secondary reason why Josh and I didn't do anything for a week is I had to travel for work, and so I honestly was like, "Hey, should we do something?" As I was and I was getting my ass chewed out at my real job because I made a couple of mistakes, and neither here nor there. But so we just sort of made the executive decision we're not going to record over All-Star break because I think we kind of had this stinker of an All-Star break for the NBA is multi years in the making because last year also sucked and so did the year before. There's just lots of sucking going on. So we just decided we weren't going to use our time to do this, though. It's funny. The NFL season ends and Dallas Mavericks interest turns on. Where look at the streams that we have right now. We're 2 minutes into our stream. We're 250 people. That just wasn't happening 6 weeks ago. We're really delighted everybody's paying attention, but now we're here. We're back. It's the 27 game stretch run. The Dallas Mavericks are now tied with the Phoenix Suns in the standings. And I think because they own the tiebreaker, they should be above them, but I'm not.
They do own the tiebreaker.
So, I didn't really know how to feel about that game because it feels like this series between these two teams, there's just a lot of counter punches going on. And I'm, from a tactical point of view, if the Suns have Bradley Beal, that changes the math. And quite candidly, I'm not sure how the hell the Mavericks defend them. That's why the Suns have played better basketball as of late until Bradley Beal got hurt right before All-Star break. And, you hate to say, the Mavericks defeated obviously I think the Mavericks are the better team, but I also wouldn't want to play that particular Suns iteration over 7 games just because of how hot they can get. I mean, this was a really fascinating, really entertaining back and forth affair This was the kind of game that the NBA was hoping for Christmas. This is why all of the Suns and Mavericks games are nationally televised, because when both teams are looking good, both teams look great. There were a number of points in this game where things could have swung the other way for the Mavericks. I'm really glad they didn't. And I think there's some things we can take away from this game, and I'm very curious to see what you think.
I think the first thing I wanted to lead off with, and this is more maybe a little bit too micro instead of macro, because these aren't really. This isn't a general thought, but it just stuck out to me. There was a play in the third quarter with about three or 2 minutes left. I can't remember. And it's when Phoenix was it was after the Mavericks had that really big run, making threes. They get up to like a 12-point lead, and then Phoenix kind of comes right back. They get it to 81-80, so Mavericks have a 1-point lead. And the Mavericks miss a shot. And if the Phoenix gets the offensive rebound, they're taking their first lead since halftime, basically. And instead, Daniel Gafford basically just chases this loose ball all the way to the corner, throws it kind of back to the middle of the court, and Josh Green kind of like teleports out of nowhere, grabs the loose ball, gets it to Kyrie. Kyrie hits the three. They're up 4. Yep. The Mavericks had a 2-possession lead the rest of the game. Phoenix never had a chance to tie or take the lead the rest of the game. And I just felt like that was cute. Like just the momentum of that play. I felt like the energy and effort, and this isn't even really X's or O's tactics or analysis. The Mavericks just had a step on Phoenix in a way that we haven't seen consistently this season before the win streak. And yeah, some of that's injuries, but in terms of their energy, effort, hustle, whatever word you want to use, disposition, to pick a word from Rick Carlisle's vocabulary. I really liked how the Mavericks kind of set the tone a little bit, basically from the second quarter to the end of the game. I just felt like their heads were really in it. There were, of course, that doesn't excuse, they had some mistakes. They didn't play a perfect game, but they played really solid. And I think their attentiveness on the defensive end, even though Phoenix still had a good scoring game, I thought made all the difference in this one.
It's funny, the Josh Green play that you're mentioning, the Daniel Gafford, Josh Green, Kyrie Irving play you're mentioning, is really funny because Josh Green had absolutely shat himself like the previous 3 possessions and was a big part of why the Suns had closed that game, because he just lost his man. And it was nice to see, because he came out almost right after that play, which was very funny. Just as a kind of a quick recap of the game, the first half of the game, the Mavericks were a little off kilter. The teams exchanged blows. The Suns got the Mavericks into the bonus in the second quarter, which resulted into a 16-5 free throw advantage going into the half. That 16-5 was a little overblown just because the Suns were in the bonus. So every little Maverick mistake, like Tim Hardaway Jr. Existing / trying to play defense, really resulted in some just absolutely ridiculous free throws on behalf of the Suns. But the Mavericks were only down by 3 at half, and then they came out of the third quarter in the rare third quarter murdering of the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, it was a torrential downfall of threes, only for the Suns to rally right back. And then that Josh Green play is where the game, in hindsight, was changed and really sort of sealed. The Suns made a couple of efforts until, to give things going. And the Mavericks, it's who's this in the chat? Nako in the chat says we need to give the Mavericks some credit for their defense. And they did. They played great second half defense at spurts. And I think it's really, depending on what you think of this team, I think it is safe to say that they are capable of playing very good defense. I think it is a misnomer to say that they would ever be a good defensive team, but when they're locked in, everyone likes to say that Kevin Durant was in PJL for PJ Washington Jr. I'm going to have to work that into the old vernacular. But this was a really impressive win. I made the joke that Jason Kidd really instructed them to run the make every shot offense, which was particularly helpful. But this was a game where, you kind of look at the non-starters or, the role players, and Luka and Kyrie played outstanding offense. No one else really did, which I bring that up not as a complaint, but simply as they say that the Mavericks had margin to improve by a great deal in this game.
Yeah, this was really, if you want to take a 15,000 foot view of this game, I mean, it was really, you've got two teams that each revolve around two mega stars, and then role players kind of filling in the blanks. Head to head, the Mavericks 2 stars beat the Suns 2 stars, and the Mavericks win by 10. Like almost as simple as that. Like Luka has 41 on 14 of 27. Kyrie has 29 points on 11 of 18. Booker was really good, 35 on 13 of 21, but Kevin Durant was terrible, 23 on 9 of 22. And Kirk, I just did the numbers. Would you be shocked to know that now that the season series is over, Mavericks win two games to 1. Kevin Durant against the Mavericks this season, 17 of 43 from the field. That is 39.5%. If Mavericks fans have been watching this team since Durant's been in the league, and he was in OKC and Golden State for a lot of his career, so he played against the Mavericks a lot. I'm just going to take a wild guess and say he's never shot under 40% from the field against the Mavericks for an entire season. I'm just going to take that shot. Maybe there's a weird season where he only played one game because of injuries or something, but that's pretty remarkable how consistently good they've been at guarding him, and also just how consistently bad he's been. He also had 5 turnovers as well. Like, that was huge. The Mavericks won the turnover battle. They had 10. Phoenix had 16. And then they were basically even on all offensive rebounds. So the Mavericks had more possessions in this game because of the turnovers. They were able to, keep control of the ball, and I think that was important because Phoenix, when they did get their shots up, they were shooting pretty well. But yeah, the Dallas Stars outplayed the Phoenix Stars pretty handedly, and then Phoenix only shot 8 of 16 at the rim, which is big for Dallas. It's big in 2 ways. One, 50% at the rim is not good, so 8 of 6, like that percentage is really good for Dallas. Also, only 16 attempts for the Suns at the rim. So I think what the Mavericks were trying to do to start the game, and it didn't look great, was trying to run Phoenix off the 3-point line and wall off the rim and maybe make some of those role players beat them. And I think what kind of happened was they kind of were maybe a little too aggressive with their closeouts, and they kind of got into the blender a little bit, and then Phoenix was just getting open 3 after open 3 in the first half. I think they tightened that up in the second half, where they were still getting the Phoenix role players off the 3-point line, but they weren't just allowing like these uncontested blow-bys. And I think that shows in how few attempts and how poorly the Phoenix shot at the rim. And I think the 3-point shots dried up a little bit. They still shot a pretty good percentage, but I think the rate went down in the second half. I'm not looking at second half right now, but that's kind of what it felt like defensively they did in the second half. And it helps, like PJ Washington and Derek Jones Jr. and Josh Green. Obviously Green struggled a little bit defensively, but PJ and Derek Jones Jr. I felt were tremendous pretty much from start to finish defensively. Mavericks just have more options defensively with those tweener wings that they like. Maxey, Jones, PJ, Green. Like, this team has wings now. Like, how often have we lamented this team not having athletic defensive-minded wings? Now they kind of have them. And now Maxey's not the guy who has to shoulder the entire defensive burden by himself. That makes a big difference.
The PJ stuff is funny. I need my man to hit a catch and shoot 3 and not a I loved his I'm just going to dribble. I'm going to dribble these 6 times and take my own Puget pull up jumper in transition for those of you who are not familiar with the Jason Terry vernacular of it all. We'll circle back to that. All right. Been about 12 minutes of the show. Thank you so much, those of you who are listening. If you could all do me a favor and head down and hit that thumbs up button, the like. There's over 400 people in the stream right now, which is pretty exciting for Josh and I. Every one of those likes matters. If you are down there, would you consider subscribing to our show? We're a mere 30 subscribers away from 2,500. I don't know what subscribers mean because I can't figure out who is and isn't a subscriber to this particular show, but I would very much appreciate your support. If you're listening on an audio platform, a podcast platform, please leave us a review. Please recommend to your friends. This is the time of year when Josh and I really try to kick off and take things to a different level because more people are interested. We regularly provide content. For those of you who are still here, we will be doing a secondary live fan show tonight that I will be hosting where you can come talk basketball with me about anything that has been on your mind over these last 7 days. I will try to do more and more of these as the season goes on. We only got 27 games left. I would like to maximize my opportunity to talk basketball with you, and I hope you are interested in talking basketball with me. Now, thank you for letting me shill. If you will go ahead and give a quick listen to our ad sponsors on the podcast feed, I would appreciate it because that's one of the ways that Josh and I make a little money, which makes this possible for he and I to do this as a side hustle. Thank you so much for your support, and we will be right back.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Wild Cherry. Pepsi Wild Cherry is bursting with delicious cherry flavor and a sweet, crisp taste that gives you more to go wild for. Getting wild may look different these days, but whether it's opting for a solo Friday binge watch or a big night out, everyone can indulge in their wild side with Pepsi Wild Cherry. Also available in Zero Sugar. So grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Wow, I have such a bullshit radio voice. I don't know
You're doing
where that comes from. All right, so let's sort of talk about some things that were less than amazing.
Okay.
Can we talk about why Tim Hardaway is getting the rope he's getting? What do you think now that there's more optionality?
Well, he hasn't been costing them games during this slump. So,
Sure.
I mean, losing usually is the biggest spur for lineup and rotation changes. Like, how long have we been doing this? How long have we been watching? Like, if teams are winning, coaches are pretty stubborn with their lineups and rotations. Like, I think as long as they're winning, I can't imagine this changing all that much. On the other hand, he's still, he took 9 threes. I know he only made 1. But outside of Luka and Kyrie, every other role player PJ took 6, Josh Green took 5, Maxey took 3, and Derek Jones Jr. took 2. That was everyone besides Luka, Kyrie, and THJ. Like, his volume matters. I know it just sounds weird,
though.
I know.
Can we give the guy some minutes? I mean, this is really rich coming from me. I've advocated Hardy get sent to like a labor camp.
I know.
But he's played well for about a month, and Tim just hasn't. And now there's not really. I like Tim. Tim is a very important player in my Mavericks fandom, but he's not working, and I can't feel like this is. I can't help but feeling like this is the basketball version of trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah, and like I said, until they start losing some games, I just don't see it changing drastically. Maybe it's a little bit different.
He's so bad at defense, though, man.
I know. It's tough, but his volume matters to a degree. Obviously, like, you have to make some. Like, you can't just chuck 10 threes every game and shoot 30% over a 7-game stretch, which is kind of, I think, about what he's doing right now during the win streak. So, yeah, he's in a bad way. He needs to make some shots, because that's what he's here for. Like, now that they've got Washington and Gafford and Maxey's looking healthy with his cyborg toe, and Josh Green is playing well, like, they've got options on the perimeter now that they don't need THJ to be anything more than to just shoot a bunch of threes and make a bunch of threes. Like that is his primary role.
I suppose I would like to see just less rope. Where if he misses, he had some clutch buckets down the lineup tonight. So I'm not totally killing him. I'm just a little bit confused because I feel like other guys would get yanked earlier. And Hardy is a fine catch and shoot guy. And I mean, the Mavericks frankly play better when Hardaway's not on the floor. That's just been the case since the trade. I mean, it's not very, we don't have a huge sample size, but Timmy's just not been very good.
Yeah. I mean, you just hope that, I don't know. It's just, hope he just starts making them. Like there's nothing really more to it really. And like I said, I just don't, maybe it changes a little bit next game because again he was pretty bad. I mean, coming out of the All-Star break, I don't think they were going to change too much.
What did he shoot during the win streak? 7 games. You tweeted somebody.
He's like around 31%. It might be lower because I haven't really factored in.
That's pretty amazing.
He's in the low 30s, maybe high 20s from 3 during this win streak.
That's pretty amazing. These Dallas Mavericks winning 7 games with that guy shooting like that.
Yeah, what was it the last 2 years? They basically couldn't win unless he was 40% or better from 3.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's this. The THJ stuff is like glass half full, glass half empty because it's not great that he's not playing well, but it means something that they are winning these games with him not playing well. Like it really does. I think that's a substantial thing.
Speaking of winning games despite some adversity, the free throw disparity averaged out over the course of the game. The Suns shot 24 to the Mavericks 21. But it's pretty amazing that Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving combined for 9 total free throws in this game. Mm-hmm. This was not a very good refs performance, and I don't like talking about the refs. That's just something, I wasted a lot of the 2000s being upset at the refs, and that's not fun. It's not fun to watch the game that way. Do you hear me, Mavs Moneyball contributor Matthew Phillips? It's not fun to watch this that way. There's a lot of fans that get really riled up by this, and the refs weren't good. But what is your take on my stance that I think this was a prime game for Jason Kidd to get a technical foul on behalf of Luka Doncic? Because Luka picked up his 12th tech tonight, and that's a problem.
It is. I don't know. I mean, how long we've been saying this every season since he's been here. You can't teach an old dog new tricks at this point. I just don't. It's just not Kidd's MO. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating. And especially this one, because this was a slow, like, it's not like Luka picked this up in the first or second quarter after like a sprint. Like this was everyone on the floor or anyone that was watching this game knew that Luka was going to get attacked.
But the stream of things that led to him getting a technical was one of the more justifiable sequences I've seen.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's where when Luka gets broadsided and he sold the contact a little much against Nurkic and then drives the lane. And there are 4 Suns that hit him on the following play. And he goes to the ground and he went to the ground because he was hit. I rewound and looked at it. I'm not this much of a Luka crazy person, I promise. But this one was fascinating to me. And there was just nothing. And you see kids standing there, and that's a moment. And I put this out there. Like I have 22,000 or something, 21,000 Twitter followers. And I asked the various Mavs media people who are at the game to ask the question of why don't you defend your star player? I'm glad this game didn't turn on that fact. I'm glad they didn't need it. I'm glad they powered through. But it would do a lot, I think, if Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving saw their coach go to bat for them one time. Just once. It hasn't happened in a long time. And I know he probably wants to keep his money, but maybe Mark Cuban still pays those fines. I feel nuts watching this because I understand that coaches have limited weapons that they can use to motivate their team. But this just struck me as one where this team is on a 7-game win streak. They want to keep it going. He's got to do something to prevent his star player from losing his cool. And when his star player is right, that's when you take that technical foul. What do you think?
No, I think so. I mean, that was one of the things I appreciated about Rick Carlisle when Rick Carlisle was here. And trust me, like I know we haven't been doing this podcast that long, but if you've been reading me at Mavs Moneyball, there were certainly some things that Rick did that drove me nutty. So this, but yeah, that was the one thing that I always liked about him. I don't know, we can't quantify it. Like if a coach sticks up for your player, does this act change?
Sure.
What does this actually change? So we don't know that, but at the very least, it'd be nice if we don't have to worry about Luka hitting that 16 technical limit every season. Like, he's well on his way. He's
going to miss a game. Like at that point, and like, do you want it to be a key thing? And so, Billy, fantastic screen name. Billy Coward says, "Why would you defend Luka? It would validate why he complains all the time. When he's right, you have to validate the complaint. That's the real thing. Otherwise, it looks like you don't care." And that's what I mean when I'm saying if he's doing this every third game, it wouldn't go anywhere. But Rick Carlisle, every now and again, would take a tech, would get ejected. It's a motivational tactic for your team. And I had one guy shoot me a message who said, as a youth coach, obviously not the same, but I like the psychology behind the thought, where he said, I think as a coach, if you stand up for your players, it will tamp down the players complaining, because then that allows you as a coach to say, look, shut the fuck up. I'm going to deal with this. And I don't want to imply that Kid is not doing anything, because frankly, I've sat close enough. Kid gets in those refs' ears. I just need him to do it in a demonstrative way when we have these refs that do what they did tonight, which for most of the game were allowing Luka to get destroyed. And it wasn't fair. That sort of stuff just drives me nuts.
No. But yeah, it wasn't fun, especially, like I said, it wasn't a sudden tea. Like we all were watching this game, and it was
was going to happen.
It was such a slow burn. It was so predictable that he was going to get a tech sometime in the second half, just the way the game was being called. But you kind of hinted at it while you were talking about this, that I thought is a pretty nice point. Did it feel to you like when Luka got that tech, there was a little part of my brain that went, okay, here we go. Like the Mavs have like can't remember what their lead was, but it was like, 7-8, something like that.
I thought they were going to come apart.
Yeah, right. Here we go again. And they shut the door after that. Like Luka, to his credit, like I didn't see him lagging in transition defense too often after that. I didn't see him behind the play a lot. I mean, he still complained, but that's going to happen. But it didn't. How many times have we seen Luka get a tech and it like takes him out of the game for an extended stretch that lets the Mavericks opponent back into the game? Never happened. The Mavericks pretty much controlled the fourth quarter from the start to the end. They entered the fourth quarter up 5, and they win the game by double digits. So I thought is that a breakthrough? I don't know. Or is it a one-time thing? We'll see.
And I'm here slandering Kid to a point. And I think Kid and the coaching staff, along with the players, deserve credit for weathering that storm and pushing through. I'm simply of the opinion that the season is long. It's emotional. There are points when you want to make a point. And I will lose my mind if the Dallas Mavericks, during a key point in a playoff series, something bad happens because Jason Kidd is standing there with his hands in his fucking pockets.
I can't argue that.
I'm sorry. I am not here to watch the coach. I am here to watch the guys in uniform. They are the people I support. Sorry, that's the way this goes. People who stand for coaches, GMs, owners are fucking weird. I want to watch the Dallas Mavericks. I want to see the basketball go through the hoop. I want to see them lift the Larry O'Brien trophy. I don't care if you don't like my criticism, because I want to see the Mavericks win. That's what I want to see. And so I don't want these little margins of error to go by where we wonder, if they had only done this thing differently. Because there's a number of those games this year. And this is why I think they've really turned the course since the trade deadline. And they're playing fantastic basketball with margin for growth. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, there's still some tweaks they could have made defensively in the first half. They gave up 63 points, and we saw in the second half they played much better. So, yeah, I mean, PJ Washington still can't make an open three. Like, there's a lot of meat left on the bone. Derek Lively only played 16 minutes and was kind of a non-factor in this game, and you still beat a team ahead of you in the standings by 10 points. Like,
well, let's talk about that. Why
Lively?
that was kind of the probably, you know, and this is more important than any of the kid-based things. Well, I guess plays a part in this. Why is Maxey getting playing time as the 5? What's going on there?
I think tonight, Nurkic only played 20 minutes. So the last time these two teams, and he's literally their only big. Like Eubanks is their backup, and he plays like he's not a big. I mean, he's a big, but he's not a real backup center.
Raphael says Maxey spaces the floor, and I'm like, what on what planet? Did you see him shoot threes tonight? I didn't.
Made one.
Okay.
1 out of 3. No, I know. I'm teasing. But I think what happened.
I really earnestly don't remember all 3 3-pointers.
I don't. The one he made the one he made was in the second half, so that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
The last time these two teams played, I don't think Kyrie played, and that was the game. In January.
Mavericks got whooped. That was a painful loss. That was a national TV loss.
Yeah, and there was no Kyrie. I just wanted to double check. Sorry, I was kind of stammering here. But yeah, so Kyrie didn't play, and the Suns went small, and they played Okogie as like the 5th guy with no center. I mean, technically, like if you want to call Durant the center, that's kind of what they did. And they kind of ran the Mavericks off the floor when they did that. But I think the reason why that mostly happened was because with no Kyrie, it makes sense to play a small, quick lineup that can trap Luka and rotate behind and run spot up guys off the line. Because when Kyrie was out, and I think Exum wasn't playing either, or without Kyrie, this team just doesn't have a lot of off the dribble juice. And especially before the trade deadline, they didn't have PJ Washington. So it was much easier for the Suns to go small because they weren't really worried about the size disadvantage because they were like, we're just going to trap Luka. We're not scared of Maxi Kleber or Josh Green or Derek Jones or any of these guys beating us off the dribble from the 3-point line. Like, we're going to trap and rotate, and we feel like we've got the foot speed to keep up. But this game, the Mavericks did have Kyrie. And I think Vogel just kind of was like, okay, well, it worked last time. Let's go small again. And the Mavericks cooked them up when the Suns went small because they tried to send 2 at the ball to Luka when Luka would take a dribble in the 3-point line. And when Kyrie's on the floor, you can't do that. Like, if Kyrie's playing like Kyrie should play, it's impossible to play that kind of defense.
He was so good tonight.
I know. Yeah, he was phenomenal. So
we haven't even talked about how good him and Luka were.
I know. We can get to that. No, it's fine. So what I think happened tonight was the Suns went small and Kidd matched the small ball with Maxey at the 5.
Did you think he was effective? Because I think I'm just sort of curious because Lively's on a minutes restriction. A couple of people pointed that out. I just think Lively is not. I think Lively's more mobile than Maxey. I'm sort of confused by this. Like, Maxey is not the athlete he once was night in and night out. There are nights where he has it. I felt like he got burned a number of times tonight as the 5.
Yeah, because he was guarding Durant like at the top at the 3-point line. Like, my favorite version of Maxey is when he is on the back line, being able to rotate and guard the rim and then switch when needed. When he's like your primary, like, hey, you're picking up Durant in the half court without a screen, like, before a switch or anything, like, that's the part where it's a little troublesome. And that definitely happened a couple times. But him and PJ, I thought, played pretty well in the fourth quarter defensively. It was a mixed bag. I thought there were moments when they played the 5. I think when Maxey went to the 5 in the third quarter, that's when the Suns got that lead to 81, cut it down to 1. And it was really weird because, like, Gafford played 17 minutes and had 2 offensive rebounds, and Lively played 16 and had 3 like, those guys had 5 offensive rebounds in like 30 minutes, which is pretty good. And it felt like anytime they were on the floor when the Suns went small, like they were just racking up offensive rebounds. So that was a little, I would have liked the Mavericks to use their size advantage a little bit more in those situations.
Sure.
But they did close the game pretty strongly defensively with Maxey at the 5. So it was a little uneven. Yeah. I think they figured some things out after halftime or after the third quarter. But man, how crazy it is to say, I wish the Mavericks could have emphasized their size advantage.
Yeah.
When's the last time we've said the Mavericks have a size advantage?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just happen to think like Lively is a pretty freaking mobile defender.
Yeah. They just trust Maxey closing out the shooters right now, or that's a coach vet rookie thing, I think, right now.
Yeah, closing out the shooters versus closing out the takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't mind it. I mean, they won. It's more.
Yeah. I mean, if Maxey would have, if that Maxey at the 5 lineup would have played the fourth quarter like it did like some stretches in the third, we might be having a different kind of podcast. But they turned it around in the fourth quarter, and I thought him and PJ together they played a really nice defensive tandem game.
Let's talk about the PJ defensive game. What do you think he did tonight that was really effective?
Just being long and just staying in front of his man, not giving up. He's not the bulkiest dude, and I thought one of the things that I was worried about with him being in Dallas was, is he going to get bullied a little bit one-on-one situations? He's pretty stout. Like, he holds his ground really well when teams are trying to go at him in the paint. And I feel like Durant was trying to go at him in the paint, because Durant, like, PJ's not a small guy, but Durant makes him look like a middle schooler almost, because Durant's just so long and tall.
He's so tall, man. Watching Josh Green try to guard him is so annoying, because he's got like 7 inches on Green.
Yeah, but PJ, like, he's got that 7'2" wingspan. He had 2 blocks and a steal. Like, that's the thing. He racks up steals and blocks for someone that's not a center.
Can I tell you something he does that probably doesn't matter at all, but like the old man in me absolutely loves?
Oh no, I want to know.
He gets his hand up late on closeouts.
So he actually contests well.
Let's say he's like 15 feet away, and he's like he's the second or third rotation, and he's trying to close out to a shooter. He gets his hand up. It probably doesn't matter, because NBA players are incredible. But one thing that Kristaps Porzingis and Luka's a little better at it now, but for the longest time, is like, when they knew they weren't going to make the rotation in time, they would just sort of like slough and go out there. And PJ gets his hand up, he jumps, he does something stupid, he makes a little like move and gets his hand up, and it's like, the old man in me, for effort-based defense, loves that stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's been the thing with him. Before the trade, it was like, he's got the tools. Like, you look at his steal and you look at his block numbers in Charlotte, and granted it's in Charlotte, but like, a guy 6'7", basically averaging a combined 2 steals and blocks per game, like, that's pretty damn good for someone that's 6'7". And it was always like, okay, well, he can obviously make splash defensive plays. Can he play consistently in the half court? Can he get back in transition? Can he maintain effort and intensity throughout a possession, instead of just getting a steal or going for a steal or going for a block or a big play? And I think so far in this small handful of games, he's shown that. Like, he's looked very locked in, despite the fact that he's not really, his offense has been okay, but like, the fact that he's still playing pretty high level defense, and he's 14 points, 9 points, 3 points, 12 points in his 4 games. Like, because usually guys kind of, guys play a little bit better defense when they're making shots. That's just kind of psychological thing. Like, the fact that he's still pretty locked in defensively, even with his offense kind of petering out a little bit, being a little inconsistent, I think that's a really good sign. Oh, and by the way, Luka had 4 steals, and he stripped Durant, I think, once or twice.
He had active hands. Active hands. I mean, it's very fun watching an engaged Luka on defense, because he takes it personally in a way that's very productive and not petty. Like, when he sometimes gets angry, he does things that aren't super helpful to a defense, but he's just so dang big.
Yes.
He's so big. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much wider he is than like most NBA players. Like, he's just like the Rob Gronkowski of basketball. Like, he's so big. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with Luka, it's not like, there are players in the NBA that are bad defenders because they just don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Mavericks might have 1 or 2 guys that are like that on this roster still.
Sure.
Luka never struck me as like one of those guys. It was just always, he just didn't want to do it because he has a 40 usage rate, and he's taking 30 shots a game, and the offense revolves around him. It just was always like, not that I don't think he can do it. It's just like, I'm going to take this possession off, because I know that if I don't, create offense for the next 5 minutes, we're going to lose this game. So, like, when he wants to do it, like he showed tonight, especially in the second half, like, he can be a good defender if he wants to.
Yeah. All right, we got a guy that's just relentlessly trolling me in the comments, but he's having a great time. Good for him. All right, so I do think it is worth at least closing before we head on to the other live show about Kyrie Irving's really just delightful play. His 2 3-pointers on like the old Jason Terry pull up in transition style stuff is really fun. I would love if he shot 4 transition 3-pointers a game. Like, give this man as many 3-point looks as he wants. He's such a delightful basketball player to watch.
His transition 3 feels like the most automatic shot like on the team right now. It's really nice to watch. He was he was great. And like I said, him and Luka thoroughly outplayed Booker and Durant. And if the 2 stars are better than your other 2 stars, the other team's 2 stars, you're going to probably win. And they did. So yeah, he was good. And I think what was good for him, he was aggressive, and that's always the thing with Kyrie, right? Like, is he going to get up shots, or is he going to defer a little bit and spot up in space? Which is good that he is willing to do that to a degree, because it's hard. Like, we watch these superstar pairings and other teams, and it's hard when these guys don't have the ball sometimes.
Yeah.
We watched the Miami Heat when they had LeBron and Wade. It took them a year, a little bit more to really figure it out. Like, the way that Kyrie feels so malleable with Luka, where he's just kind of like, okay, you need me to spot up? Like, while you're doing stuff, that's cool. You need me to take over? Okay, that's cool. And he had that spurt in the first quarter where he scored 8 points in 2 minutes.
That's right.
And it was because remember, the Mavericks started this game down 11-3, and I was kind of like, is this team still in Cabo? What's going on? And then he just like snap of his fingers, he scored 8 points very quickly on 3 possessions. He had a layup and 2 threes, both of those threes in transition. And all of a sudden it's a 1-point game, and it's game on. He's got that. He's like a firecracker. I don't know. He's instant offense unto himself. Luka is obviously an offense unto himself, but he's so much more methodical about it. The way Kyrie can just score so many points in a short amount of time is kind of unrivaled.
He had a cut to the basket for a layup, and every time he cuts to the basket, I get more mad that the Mavericks offense doesn't feature more cuts to the basket, because they have so many good passers on this team now. This is where the Tim Hardaway Sr. Luka dribbles too much thing. I kind of like, yeah, okay. Because I don't know. When the ball really moves, it's whew, this is something. This is something. They got something. And the nice part about all this is, before we kind of close out here, is I feel that, we did the first 10 minutes of the show. We're talking about, the things they did well. We spend the next 15 minutes about things that we wish they would kind of improve on. And they still won by 10 against another Western Conference foe. And I think that sort of where we're settling at this point in the year, and one thing that is a credit to the coaching staff and the organization as a whole, is they're playing right at the time when it's extremely important to play right, to play well.
Yes. A lot of teams are going to start either punting their season or get locked into their standing. And there's going to be opportunities for the Mavericks to go on a run and win some games. And I think they've got, I don't know how strength of schedule stuff works, because I feel like the Mavericks have had the easiest strength of schedule all year. Every time I look at the data, it's the Mavericks remaining schedule is easy. And it's what? They eventually have to play some hard teams eventually. But their schedule's looking pretty nice after they get through these next 2 weeks or so.
Do we have 2 days off?
Yeah, they don't play till Sunday.
Against the Pacers.
Yep.
What do we think the over-under is going to be on that game? Like 250?
Yeah, I think so. We might see another All-Star game on Sunday. That'll be fun. I can't wait to watch. I love the Pacers. I love the Pacers team. I know they're not awesome, but Halliburton's so fun. They're a fun team. I mean, they're kind of like the Mavs. They just got a lot of guys.
You want to know my problem, man? This just shows my age. And shout out to Cowboy in the chat, who will also mention this. My brain is so permanently 2000s to where whenever I see Halliburton, I think Dick Cheney. I can't. My brain will not process anything other than Dick Cheney and 2000s politics. That's how stupid old I am.
There's lots of funny jokes when Halliburton has a big game.
Man, they're going to be. I cannot. And Carlisle's just he maximizes stuff, man. He maximizes stuff. I just in a 4 p.m. game. Let's fucking go. God, we don't play another late game. The Mavericks don't play a late game until Thursday, March 14th. Holy hell.
Wow. We're going to be energized for the stretch.
I'm going to
fresh.
I'm going to be looking. Well, no, I'll always look like hell, but we'll be awake. And I won't need to just stick caffeine in my eyeballs the way I am some of these games last year.
Yeah.
All right.
I know we're about to wrap up. Can I make one more point?
Of course you can.
Shout out to Josh Okogie for being the Mavericks' third best player tonight. I don't know if you noticed when he was on the floor, the Mavericks basically had their two biggest runs of the game when he was on the floor. I know individual box score plus minus is a very flawed stat, but he earned every bit of his minus 15.
So we're going to host a Mavs party here shortly, but before I take a quick break, when we're talking like a minute, so I want all of you guys to hang out. I want you guys to start generating use your Google AI generator to imagine what Rick Carlisle is going to say about Luka before the Indiana Pacers game, because there is no smoke blower quite like Rick Carlisle. He is, again, there's a little bit to the fact that Rick Carlisle suggested his replacement to Jason Kidd to Mark Cuban. I think he did it as a joke, and Mark Cuban took him seriously. But he's so good about about mentioning how amazing he thinks Luka is, despite the fact that, I think we know that they did not have a speaking relationship by the end of Rick Carlisle's time as a coach. So I love seeing the hilariously nice things he says about someone who probably wanted to stab him with a spoon during the Clippers series.
Didn't he say something also, wasn't his quote when he was suggesting Jason Kidd to be the next coach? Didn't he say something about how Kidd is the perfect to handle a player like Luka or something, and because remember, Kidd hated Carlisle for a while.
Jason Kidd was in Luka's pictures when Luka was taking a brief vacation to some Caribbean location. Mm-hmm. So they obviously have a great relationship. And for as much as I complain about him, he ain't going nowhere. No. But it is very funny that happened, because I think you're right.
Yeah.
So, okay, guys, we'll be back in just a second for Mavs Party. Thank you so much for hanging out. Remember, please like and subscribe to the podcast if you want to stay and yell at me, or I don't know. I don't want to get yelled at that much. That happened a lot at work this week.
Be nice to Kirk.
We won. The Mavs won. Everybody's excited. We should be excited. 8-game win streak loading, as the kids say. So we'll be right back. Thank you so much for hanging out, and we'll see you guys on Sunday afternoon. Go Mavs.